The teacher called him a liar when he said his mother was a heart surgeon. The entire class erupted in laughter. His stomach twisted into knots. Tears burned behind his eyes. For weeks after, the whispers followed him through hallways. That's the kid who makes up stories. But when his mother walked into the parent-teacher conference, still wearing bloody surgical scrubs from the 6-hour emergency transplant she'd just performed, the teacher's face drained of color. Sometimes the truth doesn't need defending. It just needs to show up with a medical badge and the power to save lives. The moving truck grumbled away from the curb, leaving nothing but tire tracks on the pale concrete and the Lynn family standing beneath a colorless October sky. Their new house in Oak Ridge, Minnesota, looked like every other on the block. Beige siding, neat shrubs, standard mailbox. Nothing special. Nothing that screamed home. 11-year-old Alex Lynn stood with hands buried deep in his jacket pockets, scanning the identical houses with cautious eyes. This was his third school in 4 years. His mother's career had taken them from Seattle to Baltimore and now here. But this move felt different, heavier. Maybe because he was older now. Maybe because he already missed seeing Johns Hopkins Hospital from his bedroom window. Or maybe because of the silence that hung over this neighborhood like a fog. "Come on, kiddo," his father said, squeezing his shoulder. "Let's check out the new place." Inside, cardboard boxes created a maze across the hardwood floor. The air smelled of fresh paint and emptiness. His mother wasn't there. Dr. May Lynn had been called for an emergency surgery before they'd finished packing. A child with a failing heart couldn't wait. Alex found his room upstairs, the one with the east-facing window. Through it, he could see an oak tree and empty sky. He sat on his bare mattress and pulled out his tablet, opening the medical app his mother had downloaded for him. He found the section on heart transplants and began reading, tracing the diagrams with his finger. The first day at Pinewood Elementary came too quickly. Principal Winters met him with a rehearsed smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We're delighted to have you, Alex," she said, then added, "We value diversity here," in a tone that made it sound like a box being checked. His homeroom teacher, Mrs. Hayes, was a thin woman with silvery hair pulled into a tight bun. Her reading glasses hung from a beaded chain around her neck. She greeted him with professional courtesy, but with a distance Alex had come to recognize. Polite, restrained, uninterested. "Class, this is Alex Lynn," she announced flatly. "He just moved here from Baltimore." A few curious faces looked up. Most didn't. "Alex, take that empty seat next to Dylan." Dylan, a boy in a hockey jersey, shifted his chair away without a word. The morning crawled by. During science, when Mrs. Hayes asked about the circulatory system, Alex raised his hand. "The heart pumps about 5 liters of blood per minute at rest, but during intense exercise, it can pump up to 20 liters, he said. Mrs. Hayes blinked, surprised. "That's correct," she said slowly, her tone suggesting she hadn't expected him to know. She moved on without acknowledgement. By lunch, Alex had mapped the social landscape. He walked the perimeter of the cafeteria, tray in hand, looking for somewhere to sit. "Hey, new kid," called a voice. A boy from his class waved him over. "Where'd you say you're from?" "Baltimore," Alex answered. "You play hockey?" another boy asked. "No, not really." The boy snorted. "Figures." Alex ate alone, watching the clock tick away the minutes. That night, his mother came home late, still in her surgical scrubs. The blue fabric had a small blood stain on the sleeve. "How was school?" she asked, setting down her hospital ID badge. "Fine," Alex shrugged. He retreated to his room and pulled out a folder labeled Career Day. Inside were photos of his mother in the operating room, gloved hands repairing a heart valve, standing beside complex medical equipment, holding her research awards. Dr. May Lynn wasn't just any surgeon. She was a pioneer in pediatric heart transplants. Her technique for repairing congenital defects in infants had been featured in medical journals worldwide. She had saved hundreds of children who would have died without her innovation. It was everything to Alex. At his previous school, when kids learned what his mother did, their eyes widened with genuine awe. The next day, Mrs. Hayes announced Career Week. Students will present short talks about their parents' jobs, Prasad, she said, handing out flyers. Please keep it appropriate. No fantasies, no exaggerations, and be respectful of everyone's time. Alex's heart pounded against his ribs. This was his chance. That night, he prepared meticulously. He selected the clearest photos of his mother in surgery, her hands inside a tiny chest cavity, repairing a heart no bigger than a plum. He added diagrams of heart transplants and printed news articles about her groundbreaking technique. He practiced saying congenital myocardial reconstruction until it flowed smoothly. "This is excellent work," his mother said, reviewing his presentation. "But are these surgical photos too graphic for your classmates?" "They need to see what you really do," Alex insisted. "How you save lives." The night before Career Day, Alex laid out his clothes carefully, a blue button-up shirt with a small red heart stitched on the pocket from the hospital charity fundraiser. He fell asleep imagining the class's faces when they learned what his mother did, how she held tiny hearts in her hands and fixed them when no one else could. He didn't know yet that sometimes truth alone isn't enough, that people see what they expect to see, that the next day would change everything. Career Day arrived under a gray sky, heavy with unshed rain. Alex walked into class wearing his special shirt, folder clutched tight against his chest. His palms were sweaty, his heart raced. Today was the day they'd see him, really see him. Students presented one by one. Emma's mom was a dentist. Dylan's dad coached high school hockey. Sophie's mom worked in real estate. Then Mrs. Hayes called Alex's name. He walked to the front of the room, legs shaking slightly. He opened his folder on the display stand and held up the first photo. His mother in full surgical gear, mask covering most of her face, eyes focused above an open chest cavity. "My name is Alex Lynn," he began, voice steady despite his racing heart. "My mom is a pediatric cardiothoracic surgeon. She specializes in heart surgeries for babies and children." The room went quiet. A few students leaned forward. Others exchanged glances. Someone in the back snickered. Alex flipped to the next photo, his mother's hands holding a heart valve repair tool working inside a tiny chest. "She performs open heart surgeries and transplants. Last year, she developed a new technique that can repair certain defects without—" Mrs. Hayes stepped forward, arms crossed over her cardigan. Her expression was hard to read, neutral, but with something tight beneath it. "Alex," she interrupted, her voice smooth but edged with something that sent a chill up his spine. "We did say to keep things realistic today." He blinked, confused. "This is realistic. It's true." "I'm sure your mother has a very interesting job," she said, her tone tightening. "But there's no need to embellish. Heart surgeons work in major medical centers like Johns Hopkins or Mayo Clinic. We're in Minnesota. Perhaps next time you can tell us what she really does." The words hit like a physical blow. For a second, Alex couldn't breathe. Around him, students shifted in their seats. Someone giggled. Another whispered, "Liar?" "But," Alex began. Mrs. Hayes raised her hand, cutting him off. "Thank you, Alex. That's enough. You can sit down now." He stood frozen, folder still open, the picture of his mother half raised in his hand. His vision blurred at the edges. His throat burned. But he didn't cry. He closed the folder, walked back to his desk, and sat down slowly, like the chair might disappear beneath him. The rest of the presentations continued. More polite claps, more approving nods from Mrs. Hayes. Alex heard none of it. His ears buzzed with a low, angry static. When the bell rang, he didn't move at first. He waited until the classroom was nearly empty before stuffing the folder into his backpack and walking to the bus alone. No one spoke to him. Not a single word. That night at dinner, Alex said little. His mother noticed first. "Everything okay, sweetie?" she asked, setting down a bowl of steamed vegetables. Alex shrugged. "Yeah." His father looked up from his plate. "How'd Career Day go?" "Fine." Alex mumbled, pushing food around with his fork. His parents exchanged glances. His mother tried again. Did they like your presentation? I guess. There was a pause, then his father gently asked, Did something happen? Alex stabbed at his chicken with his fork. She said I was lying. Silence fell over the table. Who did? His mother asked, her voice suddenly tight. Mrs. Hayes, my teacher. The words came out in a rush. She told the whole class I was making it up about you being a surgeon, said I was exaggerating for attention. Everyone laughed. His father's jaw clenched. His mother sat back, lips pressed in a thin line, fury building beneath her composed exterior. In front of everyone? His father asked. Alex nodded. She didn't even ask, just said it wasn't possible, that surgeons like you don't live in places like this. His father let out a slow breath. You were telling the truth. Alex looked down, eyes burning. Did it matter? That night, long after Alex had gone to bed, his parents sat in the living room, the TV flickering unwatched in the background. We have to do something, his mother said, pacing. This isn't just a misunderstanding. She humiliated him. She made him feel invisible. His father nodded. I'll request a meeting. I'll talk to her face to face. Do you think she'll even listen? She'll have to. The following days passed in a blur of quiet misery for Alex. School became a prison of white hallways and fluorescent lights. He moved through the corridors like a ghost, unseen until someone decided to see him. Then it was only to whisper or giggle as he passed. Heart surgeon, someone muttered in the lunch line. Probably thinks his mom works on the president, another said at recess. Mrs. Hayes treated him no differently than before, and that was the problem. She didn't meet his eyes, didn't call on him even when he raised his hand, didn't acknowledge the fracture she'd created in his life. Alex stopped raising his hand. He stopped answering questions, even ones he knew well. When they reviewed the circulatory system again in science class, he sat silent, letting the moment pass. He folded in on himself. His desk became messy. His handwriting shrank. At lunch, he chose the far table by the window, back to the room, trying to disappear. The folder from career day stayed buried in his backpack. The corners of the photos were beginning to curl. At home, he said even less. His parents noticed immediately. He still came down for dinner, still did his homework, but the light had gone out in his eyes. His movements were mechanical, like someone had unplugged him from within. His mother asked questions softly, then more directly. His answers never changed. It's fine. I'm tired. I don't want to talk about it. One evening, as he pushed his spaghetti around his plate, his mother sat beside him and placed a gentle hand on his back. Honey, she said quietly, you're not yourself. He hesitated, then shook his head. I'm fine. She didn't press further that night, but later in their bedroom she let her worry pour out to her husband in hushed, heated words. He's shutting down, she said. He's not bouncing back. I know, his father replied. I'm writing the email tonight. It should have been written already. I thought maybe it would blow over. Well, it didn't. You saw his face. He doesn't believe in himself right now, and if we don't fix this, he's going to carry it with him for years. His father nodded, determination settling in his eyes. I'll fix it. I promise. The email was sent that night. It was direct, polite, and firm. Dr. Lynn introduced herself, explained what had happened during career day, and requested a meeting during the upcoming parent-teacher conferences. She didn't accuse or demand, but every word carried weight. Mrs. Hayes responded quickly. Thank you for reaching out. I would be happy to meet during conferences to clear up any misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. The word made Dr. Lynn's blood boil. You're not going alone, Alex's father said when she showed him the message. I wasn't planning to. In the days leading up to the conference, Alex remained withdrawn. He stopped wearing his heart-stitched shirt. When a younger student at the bus stop asked what his mom did, he simply said, she works at a hospital. The day of the conference arrived under heavy clouds. Alex had asked to stay home, and after some hesitation, his parents agreed. Better he not be there for what might become uncomfortable. Dr. Lynn had come prepared. She'd gone straight from surgery to the school, still wearing her blue scrubs with Dr. May Lynn Cardiothoracic Surgery embroidered above the pocket. Her hospital ID badge hung around her neck. In her bag were her medical credentials, research publications, and recent surgical records with patient names redacted. Inside Pinewood Elementary, the hallways were decorated with student artwork. Alex's drawing was nowhere to be seen. Mrs. Hayes stood as they entered, rising from behind her desk, with that familiar professional smile, the same one she'd worn when she first greeted Alex weeks ago. "Dr. and Mr. Lynn, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." The chairs were child-sized, too small for adults, which made the conversation feel tilted from the start. "I understand you had concerns about Career Day. I'm glad we can clear up any misunderstandings." There it was again, that word. "My son came home from school deeply upset," Dr. Lynn said, her voice measured but firm. "He told us that when he presented my profession during Career Day, you told him publicly that he was lying." Mrs. Hayes' smile tightened. "I simply reminded the class that we were focused on real professions. Sometimes children, especially when they're trying to impress new classmates, can exaggerate." Alex's father leaned forward. There was no exaggeration. "My wife is exactly what Alex said, a pediatric cardiothoracic surgeon. She was in surgery this morning, saving a 4-year-old's life." Mrs. Hayes tilted her head slightly, her expression unchanged. "Forgive me, but I've been teaching for over 20 years. I've had students claim their parents are astronauts or movie stars. It's not uncommon for children to embellish." "Do you correct every child publicly?" Alex's mother asked, her voice cutting. "Or only the black ones who say something you don't believe fits?" Mrs. Hayes' face flushed. "I certainly didn't mean it that way. I treat all my students equally." "You treated our son like a liar," his father said, voice no longer soft. "In front of the entire class, you didn't ask for clarification. You didn't call us. You simply decided that an 11-year-old black boy talking about a mother who's a surgeon must be making it up." Mrs. Hayes opened her mouth, then closed it. She glanced at Dr. Lynn's surgical scrubs, then at her husband's narrowed gaze. Dr. Lynn opened her bag. She laid out her medical license first, then her hospital ID badge, then photographs of herself in the operating room, then a page from a medical journal featuring her research. Mrs. Hayes picked up the badge and stared at it like it was something alien. "Minnesota Medical Center," she read aloud. "Yes," Dr. Lynn said. "I transferred from Johns Hopkins to head the pediatric cardiac surgery department. We have facilities across the country, not just in major cities." Mrs. Hayes blinked. I wasn't aware." "No," said Alex's father. "You weren't. But instead of checking, you decided our son was pretending. You made a spectacle of him, and the other kids followed your lead." "I wouldn't say I humiliated him," Mrs. Hayes muttered. "You called him a liar," Dr. Lynn said, her voice steady but intense. "At 11 years old, in front of people he's trying to fit in with? How else would you describe it?" Silence filled the room, heavy and uncomfortable. "You're right," Mrs. Hayes finally said, her voice small. "I made an assumption. I should have asked. I should have checked. I'm sorry." "You owe that apology to Alex," Dr. Lynn said, "not just privately, but in front of the class, the same way you dismissed him." Mrs. Hayes nodded slowly. "Of course, I'll speak with him tomorrow." "A private apology won't undo the public harm," his father added firmly. They discussed how the apology would be handled, not as a lecture, but as a teaching moment, an opportunity to talk about making assumptions and the danger of judging without information. "There's something else," Dr. Lynn said as they prepared to leave. "I'd like to come in and give a proper presentation, not just to fix what was broken, but because there are children in that classroom who may never have met a surgeon who looks like me. I want them to know the operating room is for them too." For the first time that evening, Mrs. Hayes' smile seemed genuine. That would be wonderful. The next morning, Alex walked into class with cautious steps. Mrs. Hayes was already there, standing straighter than usual. When all students were seated, she cleared her throat. "Before we begin today, I need to correct a serious mistake I made," she announced. "Last week during Alex's Career Day presentation, I wrongly suggested he was exaggerating about his mother's profession. I was incorrect and my response was inappropriate." She turned directly to Alex. "I'm sorry, Alex. You deserved better." The class went silent. Then Mrs. Hayes smiled. "And we're fortunate to have Dr. Lynn coming next week to tell us about saving lives through heart surgery." Something small but important shifted in Alex that day. Not everything was fixed, but as he raised his hand in science class for the first time in weeks, he felt his voice returning. Sometimes the truth doesn't need defending. It just needs time to be heard. If you felt moved by this story, hit that subscribe button now. Have you ever been doubted when telling the truth? Share your experience in the comments below.